Hello, hello. Welcome back to Finding Spirit with Tabs. I'm your host, Tabs McCaffrey, and I'm so excited to have you back. Today's episode, I'm going to share a mediumship story, also going to share a little bit of an experience that I recently had. So excited. I had our in-person live reading. So far, everything I've been doing has been online through Google Meets or Zoom. I've been a little bit anxious about this, so before we get going, if you have not listened to episode 1, I encourage you to start at episode 1 and then work your way through. It's going to tell the story of my development, also mediumship stories, and I think it'll just make more sense starting from the beginning. So go there, listen, catch up, and then we'll welcome you back into this episode. The story today is a little bit of an earlier reading that I did probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. But before we do that, I wanted to talk about what it was like connecting with spirit. So I had a friend over on the weekend, and I knew that she had lost her dad, and her and I had connected about doing a reading. She's also lost some other family members. She's one of my dear friends, and I was like, of course, let's try this. I've never done one sitting across from someone, and sometimes, I don't know, I feel like there's a little bit of comfort in doing it with someone that you know. So if it doesn't turn out or it's not how you thought it would be, they will understand. They're your friend. They love you no matter what, right? So she came over the day before and was spending the night. We were doing some stuff. We talked. We were up super late. And then this morning we were kind of getting to the crunch time. So we were drinking our coffee. She had to leave before lunch. And I think I was feeling anxious. I was a little bit nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I also didn't want to let her down. Like, it's such a responsibility doing readings and connecting with people's loved ones, and it's definitely not something that I take lightly. So I had a lot of nervousness going into this. It was funny. We were like kind of chitty chatting, and I knew I had to go get dressed, and it was like all of a sudden, bang, spirit was there. I was like, we need to do this reading right now. I'm going to go get dressed, come down, and we need to start this. So I thought maybe we would do it in the living room, but I knew that I may have kids coming in and out of the house or a husband. So I said, let's go up to the bedroom where she had stayed over. And I said, I'll get you just to lay on the bed and I'm going to sit on the chair. And then let's just see what comes through. It was so amazing. So something that I've been worried about, especially doing readings with people that I know, is how do I separate my thoughts and what I already know about them and their situation and their life from spirit. I didn't know how that was going to intertwine. So when I do a reading, I usually meditate for 15 to 20 minutes prior. I'll sometimes listen to some upbeat music for a couple minutes as I set up my office space, clean anything up. Then I'll sit down, turn it into meditative music. I take 3 really deep, mindful breaths. And as I breathe in, I'm collecting everything in me that's been ruminating, that's just kind of sitting with me, thoughts from the day, thoughts about into the future of the day, what I have going on. And as I breathe out, I'm expelling it. I'm letting it go. It's not that I'm not going to think of these things later, but I'm letting them go for the time being. Within 3 good mindful breaths, I can usually clear out what's sitting in me. Keep in mind, I have now been meditating probably 30 minutes a day since August. So I'm pretty religious on it. I've gained incredible control over my mind, which I've never had in my life. Meditation, and as we talk about, my voice is going a little wonky again, meditation truly has changed my life. And this is coming from someone that's probably had spirit in her life, since I was a child. It's never really gone away. I've always had a lot of thoughts going on in my head, and now knowing what I know, I don't think they were always my own thoughts. I know it's like borderline, a little bit crazy talk, but this is the reality. They weren't all my thoughts. There was a lot of noise all the time, and meditation helped me take control of that. So now when I go to meditate, I'm less than 30 seconds and I'm like a zoom. I'm into that meditative state. I'm not struggling. I can clear everything out. And whether I'm doing a guided one or just doing some self-reflection, I'm able to get to that pretty quickly now. And I'll tell you this, when I first started meditating, like 3 minutes and I'm like, what am I doing? I can't shut this off. Like, what am I supposed to do? How is this supposed to feel? But if you start with, 5 minutes and then you work it up to like 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, I did find it easier doing it with guided meditations, that they guided me through it and it was easier to focus on the voice, but it's not a necessity. You can just do mindfulness and just quieting your brain. But anyways, when I like to go on tangents, when I started doing this, I was able to control my own thoughts. So when I'm meditating, I'm releasing everything that's mine. I'm clearing out my mind. A lot of times what I'm doing is expanding my aura, expanding my own personal energy. And then usually within that amount of time, I can sense spirit. I now have spirit waiting with me before I sit down with the person, and it's happening time after time. It's so crazy. Like, it just blows my mind. So I can usually have like male, female relation characteristics and how they passed before we start. Sometimes even their name. Actually, I haven't reached for a name recently, but I've had first letter or names coming through pretty clearly as well. Heading into this one, I was like, can I separate my own mind and my own thoughts so that when I'm in the reading, it's just her family members? And I'm so grateful. Her dad came through. He was a very strong presence. He had very strong emotions. I could tell it was her dad. We did a few validating things that I didn't necessarily know about him. I had never personally met him. She has talked about him, but like there were a lot of things I didn't know. And yeah, I could describe his smile, like everything about him. And then we went into the reading. I was really anticipating that my own thoughts were going to creep in, but he took full control. It was actually one of the easiest readings I have done. And there's like two factors I'm thinking. One, I feel like readings are usually really strong when there's a need from the person that's with me, when they need the message, when they need to connect, or they're hoping or wanting to connect. And when spirit has never connected with them, then it's like that initial connection. There's usually a lot that needs to be said. Anyways, it was absolutely magical. I hope one day that I can share the story because we were both crying. The message was just so powerful. And yeah, I just had to share because I've never done, number one, a reading in person with someone across from me, which was so cool, kind of nervous about it, but so cool. And then also doing someone that I was really close to, that I knew a lot of things about their life. After today, I have a little bit more confidence in doing people that I know now, and also doing readings in person if it was someone that I knew. I don't know if I would bring people into our house, and just because our house really isn't set up to be doing readings out of, but I feel like I would be okay going to someone's house and doing it. Like I'm kind of excited to try and do a couple more in person. So I had to share that with you guys. So 3 big things happened in the last 2 weeks. One, I did my first paid reading, which is crazy because it's a lot of pressure. I was a little bit nervous. I feel like there's a added pressure when someone's actually paying you for this, as opposed to you just, doing readings and practicing. The second thing that happened was I did a reading for someone that I knew that also knew my children and was probably closer to my children's age. And I was like kind of worried because if it didn't go good, this could impact my kids. But that one went amazing as well. And then third thing was this friend of mine who I also did in person. So I've had like 3 really big milestones in my mediumship development this week. And I just had to share it with you guys because I'm so dang excited about it. Okay, let's get into the mediumship reading. So today's episode is going to be the reading that I did with my friend Mandy. We're like online friends. I've never met her in person. She lives a long ways away from me. We're connected through something else, not related to mediumship. And there's a lot of things about her life that I don't know anything about. So I was pretty confident going in. Mandy, if you're listening, it was such an honor to meet your family in spirit and to also have this reading with you. Like I said, I do not take these things lightly. It is an honor to meet people's family members. It's such a special thing. Okay, so Before I started with her, I did some meditation. I tried listening to some upbeat music just to get my vibe up, to get my energy level up. What I have found through the readings that I've done is that I actually don't need to vibe up. I don't need to like raise my vibration. What works best for me is actually meditating and calming my nervous system and calming my thoughts, releasing everything, becoming a blank slate. And when I become a blank slate, then spirit comes in, and it's pretty quick now. I need to be a blank slate when I connect with them. So before the reading even started, I could feel the strongest female presence, and this presence brought the biggest grin to my face, the biggest smile to my face. Usually at this point, when I can tell someone's there, I'll start to set the intentions of what I'm hoping in the reading. The readings that I do personally, I am looking for healing for the person we're meeting with and any messages that they need to hear today, what's going on in their life, and to hopefully to give them guidance or provide that healing for them. Now, this spirit was such a strong presence. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be good. I can't wait for her to hop into this live video. As soon as she came in, I was like, let's get this started. I have someone here. I'm really excited about it. It was a female spirit that was older, almost like a grandma or a great aunt, but not an immediate generation like a mother or an aunt. So a lot of times when spirit comes through, I can sense right away, male or female, masculine or feminine energy. I can usually tell the generation. So is it like a mom, aunt, child, which would be immediate relation, and then it would be like a grandma, great aunt, right, which would be a next generation. And then I've had a friend. I haven't really gone farther than like a grandma, a great aunt, and a great uncle. That's about as far as I've been able to go, which would make sense generationally of who knows you and who would be tied to you. But yeah, I can definitely sense where they fall into your family and your ancestry. I can also usually tell, and I think I've been wrong maybe once or twice out of 20 readings I've done so far. And I can usually tell if it's from your mom's side or your dad's side. And this isn't necessarily like a left or right side of me where spirit comes in. It's just a feeling. It's like a knowing. So a lot of the things, especially with the like the gender, the relation, characteristics, attributes, all that stuff, it's either feelings, which would be clairsentience, or claircognizance, which are going to be thoughts that are just coming through my head. So describing her, I said this spirit is happy, she's joyful, she's full of love, compassion. She gives me the impression she provided service to her community where she lived. Everyone was welcome at her table. The food was served for everyone that came. She had a generous heart. And Mandy said yes. So at the end, she ended up saying, yes, this was my grandma. She was a female rock in the community. A lot of women would come to her and she would help them. She also did beading and I think she did jewelry making and stuff. And she would teach other women in the community. She was able to validate it. And even the characteristics, she's like, yes, oh my gosh, this is her. This is my grandma. So her grandma wanted her to know that she was on her spirit team. Like that was right away. You need to know I'm here. I'm guiding you. Her grandma said she had to trust her gut more. What you feel is more important than what you think. She said your tuition is guiding you. You have to trust this gut feeling more and stop trying to make sense of everything and rationalize everything. And I think this actually is a common thread in a lot of our lives. If we tuned into our intuition and our gut feelings a lot more, I think we would make different decisions in our life. But, you know, over the last century, we've been really taught to use that rational side of our brain and everything has to make sense and you have to analyze everything. But there's so many decisions that I think we should just start with our gut first. It was quite powerful that her grandma was telling her this, and it was almost like the impression she was giving me is that gut feeling that she gets how to make a decision or what to do is her grandma telling her like you should be doing this or you should be doing that, right? I asked her grandma for a recent memory, something that maybe Mandy has done where in her life right now where her grandma was present or, watching over her. And right away, I see a memory. It's her son playing at the park with a ball. She was having a harder conversation with her family or friend. It was someone else with her. I was like, I can feel a seriousness in the air. And she confirmed it. She was like, yes. She's like, actually, it was yesterday. We were just out after trick-or-treating. She said we went to the park with our son and he was kind of playing with some friends at the park. And she said, we had a really serious conversation. She said, it's so funny. And it was about family. And she was like, yeah, I can sense, yes, it would make sense that she was there and, was supporting us and a part of that. So after that memory, which was it was beautiful. I think Mandy had a few more things to add into it, but usually we're able to go through something, validate, kind of share what was going on. But it's just a nice confirmation that when you are in a situation recently in your life and you are thinking about your loved ones and your family, that they're acknowledging with you that they were there. And I feel like that's a really common thing in my readings, that spirit will bring up a very specific event in the last couple weeks in your life and kind of just saying, when you had that conversation and you thought about us, guess what? We were there. I was there. I was supporting you. It's such a special validation to hear for the person that's having the conversations. Next thing her grandma shared with me, and I was kind of trying to see if maybe she had a message for Mandy or something that we could pass on. And she showed me beading or like making a necklace. It was very clear. It was like working with beads, making beaded necklaces. And Mandy confirmed that her grandmother used to work at a trading post where she made and sold beaded jewelry. She was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. It's so crazy when you say such specific things that are so applicable to their family member. Mandy also had a jewelry making business prior and just hadn't done it in a while. So the message for Mandy and her grandma was saying, a way to connect with your ancestors and to feel connected to your grandma and your spirit team was through making jewelry. And she really wanted to encourage Mandy to get back into making the jewelry because it was a way to connect with her lineage and her ancestors. And it was just a really big part of her culture. It was such a special moment because Mandy said it had been on her mind for a while. It was something that she was thinking about doing and I just kept pushing off and I've been busy and this and that. And she was like, I needed to hear this. It needs to become a priority in my life. And there's also healing through the jewelry making. So that was perfect. Her grandma also said that she was always around helping and guiding, and she understood her and her husband had been through some hardships, but she was so proud of them. She was so proud of them. She also said that they were changing the future generations together. So her and her husband were different than the rest of the family members. And through the decisions and the hardships and the changes, they were changing the lineage of her family. Mandy was so blown away. She confirmed it all. I'm not going to share like very specific things about her life, but she was like, oh my gosh, this is my husband and I. This is what we're doing right now. She's like, this makes so much sense. And then she also stated too that Mandy can see the signs around her. And she just said, it's me. So pay attention, tune in. And that's the magical thing about spirit. When you start to pay attention to the little things that you probably brush off often in your life, you'll start to see the magic of when your loved ones are connecting with you or around you. It felt like, Grandma had kind of said what she wanted, passed on the messages she wanted. There were little conversations throughout. I just didn't note them in here. And there's certain things that I'm going to keep private between myself. Even when people give me permission, there's certain things that are just between them and their loved one. So next up, her grandpa came through and it was on her mom's side. He was very firm, serious, authoritative, but also kind and loving. And she confirmed this as well. Her grandfather was a colonel in the army. He was a military man. I asked him for a memory or a message that would be important to Mandy, and he showed me her in the kitchen cutting something. And I was like, you're in the kitchen, you're cutting something. It's like he's sitting at the table, you're at the counter. And immediately she started to feel the emotions coming over. So she said the last conversation she had with him was in the kitchen, and that was exactly what was going on. And he had told her in this moment how proud he was of her and how much he loved her. This was extremely meaningful to Mandy, just that this was the memory that he brought up, because she said, of course he would. This was like one of the strongest moments between him and I. And at that point, I think he kind of knew that something was going on and he was coming to the end. And she said he was trying to connect with each daughter, son, grandchild, and make sure that he was expressing to them how he felt about them. So she was so overtaken by emotion. And I understand, like, that's such, to relive those types of memories with your loved one, it's a lot to take in. He also gave me the impressions that he was extremely proud of her and was providing strength to her on her spirit team. So each person kind of has like different types of spirit teams, and I think it can depend maybe on your belief system. But her, it was like she had a tribe around her, and each person gave her a certain attribute in her life, and her grandpa really gave her the strength, and everything resonated with her. And she just said that she felt that. She said, I will be more connected even now that I know that this is where that strength is coming from. And again, as we talk about it, my voice is starting to go a little bit froggy. So at this time, we kind of felt like each family member had given their important messages. There was a lot of chatter happening in between each one. It was such a profound reading for her. So much healing happened in it. It was a lot of things that she needed to hear in the moment. And this was probably the first time that I received kind of like channeling information. There were spurts throughout the reading where it was just like, it was like I had verbal diarrhea, like it was just coming out. And it was like, this is this, they think this, blah, blah, blah. And I don't quite know what it is, but to me, it almost seems like a channeling from spirit. I was also using like hand gestures and explaining things, not how I normally communicate. The information just flowed so thoroughly. We had sat for 30 minutes and it just never stopped. It was one of the first very beautiful readings and extremely impactful ones that I had experienced and given. And like I said, I'm just so honored to be able to meet Mandy's loved ones and share these messages. So that was the reading with Mandy. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's kind of like the Coles notes. It's so hard. So something I find very difficult is when I'm in a reading, because I'm clearing out my brain and becoming a clean slate for spirit to communicate, it's hard for me to hold on to things after the reading. There's a lot of things that go through me from spirit that I'm not holding on to or able to grasp after, and I'm almost a little bit out of it when I do a reading. Like Tab's not there. Tab's brain is like floating 5 feet away, and spirit has taken over and is using Tab's body. So it's a little bit of a weird feeling, and I'm hoping to start getting some recordings so that I can grab more detailed information. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much magic in reading. I'm just so blown away every single time. What comes through, what spirit is saying. And yeah, oh man, it's changed my life, guys. It has absolutely changed my life. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope it sparks some curiosity in you if you are new to mediumship. Also, if you are thinking that perhaps you are a medium or that things like click for you as well, I hope this helps you on your development. I think I'm going to keep this format where I share a story about theory or about things with mediumship, and then also including a mediumship story after. Oh my gosh, that's a tongue twister. All right, guys, on that note, I will see you next week. Thank you for stopping in. If you feel inspired to do so, please leave me a star review. And if you could write something up, that would be awesome. It helps push my podcast out in the algorithm. That's like one of the most important things, I think, in podcasting. They're looking for ratings and reviews. So only if you feel inspired. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I will see you next week on Finding Spirit with Tabs. Bye.